Om-Gyanatim-Anandasya Ganandana-salakya Chakshur-Mitanyena Tasmai Shri-Gurave Namah Shri-Chaitanya-Vistam Stapitam Yekare Swayam Bhaktam Dastati Swapadantikam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shri Vasudeva Gaura-Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today is the disappearance day of Narottam Das Thakur, and to be really honest, I forgot a lot of my stories about Narottam Das Thakur. I all remember half of the story, and I think, what was it again? How was that again? So I'll start reading a little bit and then see what comes back. Down from the deep memory banks. Otherwise I'm going to quiz you and see what you know. So it's said that Narottam Das Thakur, at a very young age, he was completely transcendental. So therefore, he never really gave his heart to anyone else. He simply gave his heart to Krishna. So in the Bhakti Ratnakara it says that he was a Akumara Brahmachari Sarvatirthadarshi, that he was even from early youth he was remained a Brahmachari. He was a Sarvatirthadarshi, went to all the holy places, a topmost devotee. Narottam Das Thakur was Champak Manjari in Krishna Lila, eternally assisting Rupa Manjari in her service to Radha and Krishna. Champak Manjari had mercy on the conditioned souls of this earth and appeared as Narottam in the village of Keturi, about 12 miles from Rampur, Boale in the Gopalpur subdivision of the Rajshahi district. This took place on the full moon day of the month of Magh, sometimes around the middle of the 15th century of the Saka era. So, Narottam Das Thakur appeared in this village Keturi as the son of a very wealthy landowner. A very prominent family, but a Kayastha family. So in Bengal, when someone's caste is not really clear, then generally they will say, oh, he's Kayastha. And Kayasthas were oftentimes engaged in government service or in various administrative roles, so they would also become big landowners on behalf of the government, tax collectors, and such kind of things. Narottam's father was Raja Krishnananda Datta, the Zamindar of Gopalpur area. His mother's name was Narayani Devi. Raja Krishnananda had a younger brother named Purushottam Datta who had a son named Santosh. In order to show that his associates can take birth in any caste, Krishna and Narottam take birth in a Kayastha family. So Kayasthas are considered Sudras. From his early childhood, Narottam began to display symptoms of his future greatness. Everyone was amazed to see his great intelligence and his devotional demeanor. He was constantly absorbed in meditation on the wonderful qualities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. The Lord and his associates appeared to him in dreams. It is said that Narottam appeared after the disappearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And that therefore he never met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but appeared so close to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And obviously, that was an enormous event. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance and pastimes changed Bengal completely. The entire country was just overwhelmed by the presence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It didn't just pass casually. Even today, especially when we go to East Bengal, which is now known as Bangladesh, there we find that the worship of Panchatattva is very, very strong. The local community is still worshipping Lord Chaitanya. And we also see that kirtan is sort of the local folk music. As you go to certain parts of America, and it becomes type of folk. In that part, the folk music is kirtan, and they have many different types of kirtan. So Narottam's kirtan was very famous. We're jumping a little bit ahead now, but his kirtan style remained for many, many centuries. Narottam, it was before his birth that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stood in Kanana, which is on the bank of the Padma river. He was in Kanana, and on the other side of the Padma river, which is a very large river, there's the place known now as Kateri, the birthplace of Narottam Das Thakur. It is said Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he looked over the river in the direction of the birthplace of Narottam, and he loudly called out the name of Narottam. And as he called out the name of Narottam, everyone was wondering, who is Narottam? No one knew Narottam. But somehow or other, it was stated, Narottam will appear here in the future. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he asked the Padma river to accept Krishna Prem and to store that Krishna Prem in the waters and to release it when Narottam would appear and take his bath in the river. So, Padma said, how can I recognize Narottam? It is said that you will know because as soon as Narottam will enter your waters, the water will just overflow the banks immediately. So then you will know. So many years later, when he was about 16 years old, Narottam came to that river. Narottam throughout his life had heard about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he had developed great attachment to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Although he had never met him, he was always thinking of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so, Narottam, he went to take his bath in the Ganga, and the Ganga did overflow. So then immediately the Ganga invested that Krishna Prem in him. And it said Narottam, he had a darkish complexion, long arms, kind of lotus-shaped eyes. And when Narottam went into the river and he became overwhelmed by Krishna Prem, then Narottam changed color and became golden. So much he had changed when he came out of the water, crying tears, being in total ecstasy and being golden. Even his own mother didn't recognize him. She said, that's not my son. He looks a little bit like him, but it's not him. No, mine is black. This one is golden. So like this, Narottam became such an extraordinary devotee. Then Narottam, he went at a young age to Vrindavan because Lord Nityananda appeared to him in a dream. No, it was not Lord Nityananda. See, I told you I'm a little rusty on these stories. It comes back slowly. It wasn't Lord Nityananda. It was the entire Panchatattva. He had a dream of a kirtan, a great kirtan. And in that kirtan, the entire Panchatattva appeared and everyone was dancing in ecstasy. And he also got swept up in the ecstasy. And then Lord Chaitanya personally told him to go to Vrindavan. And then Lord Nityananda personally told him to go to Vrindavan. And then Advaita Acharya personally told him to go to Vrindavan. And then Srivas, Thakur and Gadadhar told him personally to go to Vrindavan. In this way, when Narottam received all these instructions to go to Vrindavan, he decided to go to Vrindavan immediately. And as he left and went on the way to Vrindavan, he would walk the entire day. In the evening, come to a village. And then in that village, he would speak about Krishna. He would sing in the greatest ecstasy. And the whole village would become ecstatic. And as the whole village would become ecstatic, they hardly slept the whole night. And then in the morning, when it was time for Narottam to go, then the villagers would come to Narottam and said, "Oh, Narottam, you cannot leave. Narottam, we are so inspired by your presence here now. You cannot go, you cannot leave." And then Narottam said, "I was here in this village and I became so ecstatic by this village, by all your association. I cannot leave, but I have to leave because at the order of Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar Pandit, Srivas, Thakur and so on." So in this way, Narottam would leave and travel the whole day, and in the next village, the same thing would happen. Just think, maybe sit outside. He is not going to stop. Anyway, so we see that in this way, Narottam, when he went to Vrindavan, was a great exalted personality. In Vrindavan, Narottam met with two other great devotees, Srinivas and Shamananda, and they were meeting with Jiva Goswami. And Jiva Goswami, he, after instructing them, gave them the books of the Goswamis to take to Bengal and start distributing them in Bengal, because the thing was that in Vrindavan there were the Goswamis. In Vrindavan, the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they were formalized. They were based on Vedic literature, they were systematic, and everyone understood what the process of pure devotional service really was. But in Bengal it was a little different. In Bengal, Nityananda had been preaching, and in Bengal he had just been preaching with kirtan, and all kinds of people had somehow or other become devotees, but not exactly very strict, and nobody understood exactly what the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu really were. So there were lots of different groups of people who all were part of Nityananda Sankirtan movement, but philosophically there was quite some variation. Therefore, they decided to send the books of the Goswamis to Bengal to create some sort of uniform understanding of what Krishna consciousness really was. Of course, there's the story that the books got stolen because there was a king who had an astrologer, and the astrologer said that, some people are traveling with a great, great treasure. A treasure most valuable. So the king became attracted and stole the treasure. Later, Srinivas recovered those books because when the king was given a big, large boxes, and he thought they would be filled with jewels and other things, and found these books inside. But then as he was reading the books, they changed his heart. So in this way, he also became a devotee, eventually a disciple of Srinivas. Then what happened was that Srinivas gave order that all these manuscripts should be copied, and they were hand copied. Then Narottam was given a set of the copies, and he arranged that many brahmanas in Kateri would also hand copy the manuscripts. Shamananda took some manuscripts to Orissa, where he was preaching, and he also got many copies made. Then they did a big festival in Kateri, the birthplace of Narottam. And this festival was historical because it was the first Gaur-Purnim celebration after the departure of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And at that time, in this place, Kateri, something amazing took place. It was an amazing festival. First of all, Vaishnavas came from everywhere for that festival. It is said Achyutananda, the son of Advaita Acharya, who was a small boy at the time of the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who now was of mature age, he came. Most of the Vaishnavas, of the contemporaries of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, had all left by then, by the time of this Kateri festival. They were no longer present. But Janava Mata, she was still present on the planet. So what had happened is that it was arranged that Janava Mata had been taken to Vrindavan to hear the explanations from Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So Janava Mata had thoroughly understood the works of the Goswamis. So they brought Janava Mata as the senior-most Vaishnavi in the entire assembly to preside over the assembly, with the idea that by her presence everyone could see that this was a bona fide event. Because in this event, everybody who came got a full set of books. Everyone got a full set of the Goswami literature. That was one thing. So, and Janava Mata was there to testify that these books were bona fide, and she also was able to explain them because she had heard. So, in this way, that part was taken care of. And then Narottam established 6 sets of deities there in that place. I have to just just quickly look if I remember all of their names. Where one have it here somewhere. Okay, I'll try. And there's of course, there was a deity of Lord Chaitanya. There was a deity named Vraj Mohan. That deity is now in Vrindavan. And then there was Vallabhi Kanta, and then some more. And that I don't remember. So the deities then were installed in Ketri during that festival. So it was a big thing. Installation of 6 deities, the whole Abhishek, the whole installation ceremony. And then there was this amazing kirtan. And this kirtan was a particular style. It was slow, it was long, drawn out kirtan. And Narottam introduced this kirtan. And Narottam, he sang with a very sweet voice and filled with devotion. And it said that in the kirtan of Narottam, again, the entire Panchatattva appeared at one point. In Bhakti Ratnakara, it mentions that the entire Panchatattva appeared. And when that happened, it says then, everyone just really went to another dimension in that kirtan. And the next thing, the Panchatattva disappeared. Which led to such a shock that everyone cried. And it says, due to the tears, the ground became muddy. So there was some serious crying going on, some serious separation, whatever that was. This Ketri event, right, is not just an interesting story about the miraculous life of Narottam Das Thakur. It is a very significant moment because it is the moment that actually the teachings of the 6 Goswamis came to Bengal. It is that without the teachings of the 6 Goswamis, it is not possible. It is not possible to actually follow Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One must go through the 6 Goswamis. So in this way, Narottam, Srinivas and Shamananda established that. Then because there were deities in Ketri now, Ketri became a central place of worship. So in this way, there were books, there was a central place of worship, there was an amazing new kirtan style, and all that happened there in Ketri. And in this way, Ketri transformed. It transformed Bengal completely. After that, Goswami was the first person sent to Vrindavan. So that was the first attempt to create a center for Lord Chaitanya's movement. Before there was no center. But in Vrindavan, Krishna's birthplace, and the beginning of excavating Vrindavan, because Vrindavan was just forest, basically. So Lokanath began, Bhugarbha Goswami joined him. Bhugarbha must be a nickname because it means who's in the womb of the earth, and it is said Bhugarbha used to chant under the deity of Radha Govinda in Vrindavan, deep in the basement. So he must have had another name, he became Bhugarbha. So like this, we have these personalities. Lokanath Goswami was a strict renunciant who did not want to accept any followers, who did not want any worship, who did not, he just wanted to stay anonymous. Therefore he has also forbidden Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami to write about him, so you will not find anything about Lokanath Goswami and Chaitanya Charitamrita. But anyway, Lokanath Goswami, of course, was a very great, accomplished Vaishnava who deeply absorbed in love of God. In his dream, he was ordered to accept Narottam as his disciple. But he was not so inclined to accept any disciples, so it took quite some effort, and only when Narottam served him anonymously, because he would not accept any service from nobody. But Narottam would just go, in those days, people would go into the forest to relieve themselves, and Lokanath Goswami would go to the same place, and then Narottam would clean that place, put fresh sand and everything. And by that menial servant, eventually, he convinced Lokanath Goswami to accept him. So, we're looking here at special devotees. We're looking here at devotees who were part of the formative aspect of this movement. We are sort of the mercy cases who somehow or other get some benefit from this movement. Our contributions are not so great, a bit meager. Simple, a little bit. You say, well, I did this, I did that, but it's nothing that changes the surface of the earth. But Narottam is like one of the pillars in this movement. And of course, we can think about Narottam as a songwriter and as a singer. And then when we begin, we can meditate on the Guru Vandana, on the prayers offered to the spiritual master. Shri Guru Charana Padma, Keva Bhagavati Sarma. Well, we know the translation, the lotus feet of the spiritual master are the only way by which can attain pure devotional service. I bow down to its lotus feet again and again. So we recite that prayer daily, and that prayer is really, it's the essence of all Guru worship. It's all there. How the complete dependence on Guru, the qualification of Guru, the one who benefits the three worlds, and how just by taking shelter of him that we can attain perfection. Yeah, that is the so Narottam, his prayers are extremely deep, extremely profound. Narottam is just crystal clear, so to speak. Crystal clear. So that is how we are relying on him. So, not just that there are amazing pastimes, there are. Certainly there are wonderful stories about Narottam, but the most important is that Narottam Das Thakur is still part of our spiritual life today, and very much so. As I say, we chant his song every day. It's a big meditation. It is through Narottam that we understand Guru Tattva. And especially this movement is very much centered around Srila Prabhupada. has a very strong focus on Prabhupada, and every day we chant that Guru Puja, and every day through Narottam Das Thakur we are appreciating the depth of Srila Prabhupada. Without Narottam's help, who are we? So therefore, a very formative Acharya, therefore important today. I went there to that place, to Kateri, but in Kateri today, the deities are no longer there because they had to move them because of Muslim presence. They were afraid the deities might be broken. So in one sense, Kateri itself, besides the dust of Kateri, which of course is priceless, there's not so much to see in terms of the deities of Narottam or anything like that. But just a little bit outside of Kateri, there is Prem Tali, that place where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu put the prem in the river. So we went there and had a little temple there with some pictures of Narottam, but that temple is on a little branch, a little canal that comes off the river. So they said, this is the place. I said, the book says it's the river. It doesn't say it's a little canal. And the river is there. I want to go to the river. Said, you can't go to the river. I said, no, we'll go to the river. We'll just get a boat, we'll rent a boat and go to the river. I said, there are no boats for rent here. I said, every boat in Bangladesh is for rent. And it was. There was a fisherman, and sure enough, his boat was for rent. And we went, you know. And the water wasn't so deep, it was about chest high. So we went in and stood in that place and dived in that place for hours and hours in the hope to find a drop of that Krishna praying, just in case it was left there. Yeah, so I can certainly recommend you to go there. And it happens to be so that in the year 2019, in December, I'm going to take a group of devotees to Bangladesh, and if by any chance you're interested, then we'll create some online registration a bit later. You can sort of book your place. See, the lizards are getting ecstatic. Yes, it's a good idea. Yeah, because this is the land of Lord Chaitanya. They've cut off in 1947 when they, in the partition, when they cut off a part of India and made it Bangladesh. At that time they cut our tradition, they cut our history in half. Half of our history is there in East Bengal. Actually, so much is there. Birthplace of Narottam, pastime place of Narottam, birthplace of Rupa Sanatan, birthplace of Lokanath Goswami, birthplace of Sachimata, birthplace of Jagannath Mishra. Then Pundarik Vijayani's birthplace, Vasudev Datta's birthplace, Gangramata Goswamini's birthplace, Vasudev Datta's birthplace, Advaita Acharya's birthplace. So I mean, you can see it's getting like quite a list. So a pilgrimage is a good idea. Because in these places, obviously, the meditation gains a lot of depth. Narottam, after that festival, it wasn't just that that it all ended. It was rather that at that time, Narottam started to preach very, very widely, everywhere. So there's a few books that describe about Narottam. Das Thakur. One is the Narottam Vilas, the other one is the Brain Vilas. So in the Narottam Vilas, it has this description that that there was a Brahmin and somehow or other his grain storage, a barn full of grain, had become totally contaminated with cobras. And it's just like, it was so bad nobody wanted to live there. And it can be intense in Bengal as cobras. I have experienced, because one year there was a flood and the place where we stayed went also underwater. And then when we went back there was still water in the house and all these cobras were hanging off the rafters. So Bengal is known for these things. Anyway, that granary was full, but no one wanted to go there. But Narottam, he simply went there. And somehow or other the snakes disappeared. And then Narottam found deities in that shed. And the deities were the deities, so Lord Chaitanya and Vishnu Priya. So in this way, these deities are now, it says are in Gambila. I don't know if that's a spelling mistake. Gambila, it should be Gambila, wherever they are. So, of course we remember that Narottam in his preaching began to somehow or other convince people from Brahmin background, and they became his disciples, and that was not so appreciated. That was very difficult to swallow. So there were some smarter brahmanas, those who are very attached to brahminical position by birth, who were called to argue, to defeat him. But we know that the Brahmin disciples of Narottam were setting up just outside the camp. A big party was going to meet Narottam. But just outside the camp, these two Brahmin scholars, they camped and they disguised themselves as a battle nut seller and as a clay pot seller. And when people came to buy these items, they only spoke Sanskrit and nothing else, right? Only spoke like high-class Sanskrit, so everyone was like, wow. And then they were amazed. I mean, how come, you selling these things and simple people like you are speaking Sanskrit? We are followers of Narottam, So then they said, if even the simple followers of Narottam speak such Sanskrit, what then will the scholars be like? So they decided not to go there because they were afraid they might lose their reputation as scholars. So in this way, somehow or other, Narottam was protected by the Supreme Lord. And that is the case. That such a personality is a special instrument of the Supreme Lord, and the Supreme Lord makes the arrangements. When we hear these kind of stories, it sounds also so mystical, but it is a fact. Krishna is there, and Krishna supported him throughout, and then in that way, everything fell into place, and in that way, Krishna consciousness, being a preacher on behalf of Mahaprabhu, his teachings became very prominent. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu certainly had been widely recognized, but it was more sentimental. without actually understanding his proper teachings. So in this way, things went forward. Okay, I will leave it at that. Is there anyone else who wants to add something? I see the party is really going on. You did it so quietly that I didn't even realize. Hare Krishna. Okay, let's stop and we'll just continue with the art. Narottam Das Thakur ki Jai.